Hi, everybody. It's been over a week since my regular art classes have had to be postponed because of the COVID-19 virus. And I've been at home. I've been not doing any art classes. I've found myself looking for stuff to do to keep myself artistically engaged. And so what I thought I would do is that I would go through some paintings and some art projects that I've done with various groups and classes. And I would pull those out and I would do a little bit of an art class online. I've pulled out some projects that I really love and have enjoyed doing in the past, and I thought I would share them with you. I'll be breaking the project down step by step. You can pause the video and continue as you need to. And when you get done, you'll have a work of art that you'll be proud of. My plan is to post a video every day or two so that you'll have plenty of artwork to do while you're in quarantine. And then after we're done being quarantined, maybe I'll go to once a week. But I do plan to continue doing art projects that we can enjoy doing together. Now that I've introduced my channel, let's get started. The first art project we'll be doing is a painting. We'll be doing this one. It's one that I have done several times in several different forms, but everybody has enjoyed it. So I think that this will be a good one to start with. It's nice and easy. I think anybody would be able to do this one. It's a cute little aspen tree or birch tree painting with little fairy circles on it and stuff. It's kind of a cute painting. This one's done on little art boards. These are probably about a 5x7 art board. I'm going to use a piece of cardstock today because most people have cardstock around their house, and some acrylic paints, and I think that it'll probably work out pretty well. So with that, let's get started. For this project, the things that we need is a palette to put our paint on. I use a salad container. We'll need a sheet of paper, cardstock. If it's too light of a paper, it might bubble up a lot. We'll need paintbrushes. We'll need flat paintbrushes. It can be a small one like this one, or it can be a little bit bigger. The bigger ones will cover the paper faster, but most of us have brushes like this around, so I'm going to use that. We'll also need some containers that are round. Most containers are. But what we need is a variety of sizes that aren't too big, because these are what we're going to use to put our fairy circles onto our paper with. This is a fry sauce container. This is from pizza dipping sauce, and this is just a little container that I have that I've had around the house, and we've used those before. You'll need a gift card, a used gift card that's already been used up, and it doesn't matter that if it gets kind of messy. We'll need some masking tape. We'll need some acrylic paints. I chose blue for my sky, and I picked some yellow and some green for my fairy circles, and I'll also need some white paint and some black paint. You'll need something to tape your paper too, so that it won't bubble up so bad. When we go to put our tape on, masking tape tends to curl up sometimes when we peel it off. I'm going to peel it, and I'm going to kind of give it a little bit of a tug like that. That will make it so that it doesn't curl up and stick to itself so bad. And I want to measure the width of the top. And I want to put my tape half on and half off. This will help it to keep it from bubbling up. And the reason that we're doing the top and the bottom first is then we know that when we go to take the tape off, we'll take the sides off first because they'll be on top. Sometimes the paint will kind of cover that up and make it kind of hard to get it up. But this way we know exactly what we're going to peel up first. We're going to peel up the ones on the top first. And just give it a quick measure so that I'm not using way too much. The next thing that we're going to do is we're going to use our tape to put our trees onto our paper. And that's what these trees, that's the line from the tape. And you'll notice that some of them are skinny and some of them are a little bit wider. If you have various widths of masking tape, you can use the various widths. I tend to have a variety, but today I'm going to just use the one because a lot of people only have one size of masking tape at home. What I'm going to do is I'm going to measure across it. And my trees, I don't want them to all stand straight up in one row. So it's nice to have a little bit of a variation. So I'll put a little tree here. Tear off another piece. And I don't want to do this one at the same angle. I might put it a little bit straighter up and down. And put it at a slightly off angle, the opposite direction. Now if I want this tree to be a wider tree, all I have to do is take a piece of tape, and I can make it a little bit wider by almost overlapping it completely, or I can make it a really wide tree by making the tape just barely touch each other. I don't want to leave it, I don't want a little skinny space in there. I do want to make sure that it's overlapped, and I want to make sure that it's pretty much parallel to my other piece of tape. Do another one here. And sometimes the trees in nature will kind of cross over each other. We don't want to cross over in the middle. If they're going to match up, we want them to match up near the bottom because it'll make it a lot easier for us to do our trees. And I don't want too much overlap with my trees, but a little is okay. So I've got 4 trees there. If you're using a larger sheet of paper, you might want more trees, you might want more wider trees. You just don't want to put them right up next to your side because the borders of your paper will be white when we take the tape off of the outside. So I'm happy with my 4 little trees. 1, 2, 3, 4. And so I will put my tape away and we can get ready to paint. On my palette, I'm going to take some of my blue paint, and I've chosen a fairly light blue paint. You don't want to do too dark because we're thinking spring now. The weather's warming up and it'll be good to get outside, and I think that light blue will be really good. I'm also going to put a little bit of white paint on my palette. I don't need too much of that. When we're putting the paint on, we'll want to work from side to side with this because our brush strokes are going to give us a little bit of an inclination that it's actually a sky. So I'm just going to go back and forth. I got my paint. I'm not getting it too far up on my brush, just getting some paint on there. And I'm painting back and forth on my paper. I want to get right up next to the tape there. And because we want to see like a little bit of a cloud, I'll just take it and I'll put a little bit of white and I'll just pull that right over, mix it in with it. Now if it starts to get too dry, this won't mix very well. So you do want to make sure that when you do add your white to it, that you're adding it on wet blue paint. Go back and forth. Now if I continue to go back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, it'll make my white disappear. And I don't really want that. I want to see the white. So don't overwork your paint as you're doing this. Once you're done with your sky and you're happy with the colors that you have, be sure to rinse your brush out and let it dry. You may have to let it dry for quite a while if you've got a lot of paint on there, or you could use your blow dryer on a medium to low setting. You don't want it too high. If it's too high, the tape will sometimes peel up a lot. So if you're going to use a blow dryer, use it at a low to medium setting. And once it's dry, we will come back and finish our project. Now that my painting's dry, I can decide if I like my sky the way it is. I kind of like my clouds up this way, but I might also turn it around and see if I like it the other way. And this time I think I like it the way I had it originally. So I'm just going to put it just like that. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to take care of our fairy circles. They're kind of a fun thing to do. So I have 3 different sizes of containers, and I'm going to use them on my palette upside down. You can see where I've already used those. And so I want to make sure that I have my paints spread far enough apart that I'll be able to do my circles without having the paint mix up too much. So I'll put a little bit, and I only need a little bit of paint. I can always add more if I want more, but I think I just need a little bit. And the way that we're going to do this one I haven't used before, so I'm going to use it first. It's a little bit bigger. I'm going to sit it halfway into the paint like that, and I'm just going to turn in a circle until I have paint on the whole end of it. It can be uneven like this, it's not a problem. And I want to think about where my trees are going to be, and that's where my tape is. And so I don't want to put it straight over top of the tree. I want to kind of offset it a little bit. I'm going to sit it down, and I'm going to give it a twist. And when I lift it up, I have a circle. If my circle doesn't go all the way around enough, I will sit it down and I will just turn it a little bit more and see if I can get it to put a little more paint on. I'll do another green one. I think I'll put it over top of the tree, and it'll have some circle on a little bit on both sides of the tree. There we go. And I might want a middle-sized yellow one. I will set that one. I think I'll put that one here. And I'll turn that. Maybe I'll have one down here. Maybe I'll do a little green one. Kind of inside of this one. Sometimes they just don't want to get all the way around. I just went and found myself some pink paint. I think I want some pink fairy circles too. Let me set this one. Like that. And I think this time I want it to overlap my green one. Here we go. Got a little light one right down here. kind of pretty. Where it went through the green, it kind of spread that pink a little bit. I like that. And there's my tree. I want to make sure that I'm not hitting my tree all the way. Some of my fairy circles will be skinnier, some of them will be fatter. If you have metallic paint makes great fairy circles that kind of glimmer. The ones that are on the that I showed as my examples were done with a metallic paint, and they turned out really, really nice. All right, I want to keep my fairy circles kind of near the bottom of my paper. I want to have that top part to look a little bit more like the sky, and the fairies a little bit more down here near the ground. I think this one's going to go off the side of the paper a little bit. I think maybe I do one more yellow one. I'm running out of paint there. One more yellow one there near the bottom. And I think that looks pretty good. So I want to let my fairy circles all dry. If you're using a blow dryer, remember to keep it on a low to medium heat so that it doesn't bubble your tape up off of the board. And I will be back when mine is dry. The next thing we're going to do now that it's dry is we're going to remove the tape where the trees are. We want to leave our tape that's holding our paper down on the paper, or down on the board. We want to leave our tape that's holding our paper onto the board, but we want to remove our trees. When we're doing this, we want to do it very slowly because sometimes the paper will tear and we don't want that to happen. So I'll start near the top and I'll get it started, and I'm going to pull it very slow. The reason I'm pulling it very slow is that sometimes that paper does tear, and if it starts to tear, I'll be able to help it stop tearing into my sky. If it tears into the white part, it's not going to matter too much. See, there's a little bit that's pulling off. Just give it a little pull this way gently so that it stops that tear. Pulling it fast will cause it to tear more easily. Be patient. Get these two together. Pull it nice and slow so that if I see any tearing, then I'll make sure that it only tears on the white part. Now I put these two down and I crisscrossed them. I want to make sure that I take the one that's on the top off first. So I'm going to pull this one off next. See, that one's starting to tear a little bit. I'm just going to give it a gentle pull this way so that it tears onto one into the white part. And then I'm going to continue on very slowly. Oh, starting to tear again. When it starts to tear a lot, the thing that I tend to do is I tend to go to the opposite end and start pulling from the other end. And sometimes that'll help keep it from tearing so bad. We want to be patient with this. There we go. Alright, that's the part that I already peeled off. You see how that's kind of torn up there and kind of got a little piece there? I'm just going to come in and I'm going to pull that torn piece off. If you've used the art board, the canvas art board, you won't have this problem at all. If you used watercolor paper, it might tear a little bit. It won't tear as bad or as easily as the cardstock does. There's that one. So there's my 4 beautiful little trees. They don't look like this yet, but they will. This next part you might want to practice on a piece of scrap paper so that you get the technique down before you do it on your good artwork. I'm going to turn my palette around because I want to use the black paint on here. I'm just going to put a very small drop of black paint on my board or on my palette. I'm going to take my gift card and I'll have a blob of paint in one spot and it'll look a little bit thicker, and then it'll be I'm going to use my gift card and I'm going to sit it down into my blob of paint, and it does just like that. You've got a blob of paint there, and I'm going to sit it down on the board, and I'm going to slide the card like I'm sliding it through the card reader. So that it makes it go all up along there. And you see I've got that little piece there, and that's okay. I'm going to take the card and set it down just the edge of it onto the edge of my tree, and I'm just going to kind of drag it across. I want to be sure to stop at the other side of the tree. I could try this again. It may or may not have enough paint on it. And I'm kind of pressing it down and dragging. I can flip the card over because the other side of it's got paint from that little blob there too. Set it down, drag it across. I'm going to set my card in just a different spot. I'm going to slide it back and forth. And I want to go from the other side of the tree as well. I'm going to sit it down on there, give it a press, and kind of drag it across. If there's just a little bit coming off, that's all right. It'll give you a lot more variation in your tree. And sometimes I may just take the card and slide it in my slid paint. Oh, that's pretty. And where the card kind of leaves little bits along there, it just looks like a little bit of bark through there. Slide. Sit it down. Give it a drag. Give it a drag. I'm going to do the other side. Sit it down. Give it a drag. Maybe get a little more paint. And I just keep switching hands. If you're having trouble with switching hands, you can always turn your paper around so that you're only dragging it with your dominant hand. Now I've got my 2 trees here. I'm going to decide which one of them is in the front and which one of them is in the back. The one that's in the front is the one I'm going to do first, because I want to make sure that I've got that one defined. And that'll be, I think I want this one to be in the front. So I want to line up my card so that it goes all the way to the bottom there and make my tree come across there, or make my bark come across my tree there. Oh, that looks nice. Flip my card over because I got paint on the other side. Give it a pull. Now I'm going to do the other side of the same tree. Now to do this tree, I want to make sure that I'm not overlapping this tree that's in the front. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take it, and the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to do the side that matches up to there. I'm just going to go ahead and do that bark. Now when I'm coming from this side, I want to be sure to stop before I get to the tree that's in the front. There we go. And then I'm going to look at my trees and see if there's anything that I really don't like with my trees, or if I think that I need more bark that shows up, any more of the black bark. So on this one I have very little there in that spot. So I'm going to try, oh, I got a lot of bark now. There, I like that. I like that. And this tree here, I think I want a little more down here at the bottom. Now I'm pretty happy with it like this. So now all I have left to do is to remove my tape and to sign my artwork. Now remember, I put the sides on last, so I know that those will be on the top. So I'm going to peel those. Now rather than peeling it straight like I did with the trees, I'm actually going to peel it away from the side. This way, if it tears, it'll tear right into the side of the paper. If I pull it this way, I'm more likely to tear it into the paint. So I'm just going to pull it away from my picture. Do my other side. Do my bottom. And do my top. Now all I have to do is sign it. That was a lot of fun, wasn't it? I got my painting that I did. I've signed it. I've put my date on it with a Sharpie marker. And I think I'm pretty happy with that. I think I could hang that up on my wall. It's so pretty. I hope you had a good time today. I hope that the artwork was a lot of fun for you to do, and that you'll join me again the next time. Thanks for spending time doing this artwork with me. May God bless you with peace, joy, and happiness.